What is up everyone, it is Sacred Saiyan here, welcoming you back for another video. If you end up liking today's video, then please consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind. In today's episode of What If Vegito Stayed Fused, we're going to be exploring what would happen if Vegito had never defused in the Buu saga, and the retcon to Potara earring having a time limit for mortals never happens. Vegito also doesn't get defused by the bad air inside of Buu, whatever that means. And the fight between Vegito and Buuhan would obviously remain the same as in canon, because Goku and Vegeta believed they would be permanently fused anyway, and Vegito would still pretend to be absorbed by Buu while having a barrier around him. And while inside of Buu, he would find his friends all trapped in those pink balls of Buu, and he would rip them out, along with ripping out Fat Buu. This would cause Buuhan to become Kid Buu, but since that would make him massively weaker, Vegito would beat Kid Buu with little difficulty, and before Buu could even blow up Earth. He would do this by throwing a barrage of ki bullets at Buu as a distraction, and he then powers up a final Kamehameha, which he fires at Kid Buu, and it would erase every atom and every cell of Buu, completely erasing him. There would then be a time skip to Battle of Gods, but during that time skip, Vegito would force Gohan to train with him. Vegito wouldn't be as easy going as Goku, and he wouldn't let Gohan waste his immense potential. Gohan would obviously still have a job and be with Videl, but in all of his free time he is training with Vegito. Whole family dynamic would also be weird now, since Bulma and Chi-Chi would have to share Vegito, and Bulma would get a house built for Chi-Chi closer to Capsule Corp to make it easier. Goten and Trunks, however, would think that this is awesome, as they are now kind of brothers in some weird way. Also, seeing a fusion far stronger than their own fusion could give them some motivation to grow stronger, and they would occasionally join in the training with Gohan and Vegito. We now get to Battle of Gods, and Beerus would wake up after still having a premonition of the Super Saiyan God, and would eventually begin making his way to Earth after hearing multiple Saiyans residing there. After Beerus and Whis arrive, he asks Vegito about the Super Saiyan God, and even though he knows who Beerus is thanks to the memories of Vegeta, he isn't afraid, and he simply tells Beerus that he doesn't know what a Super Saiyan God is, but he is sure he doesn't need it to knock Beerus down a peg. Whis begins to laugh, as Beerus got slightly annoyed by that remark, but he then challenges Vegito to a battle. If he isn't satisfied with the fight, then he will destroy the Earth. Vegito, confident as ever, agrees to this, and then him and Beerus fly into the atmosphere to begin their battle. Vegito would first try to face Beerus in his base form, and even though he does far better than even Vegeta's rage moment against Beerus in canon, it is still nothing to the God of Destruction. So, Vegeta then becomes a Super Saiyan, and then he catches Beerus off guard because of how fast Vegito's power just grew. Beerus, however, would regain his footing, and he would still be overpowering Vegito. I'd probably say that at a minimum, Vegito is as strong as a Super Saiyan God Goku from canon, and to show Beerus how strong he truly is, he even transforms into Super Saiyan 3, putting him far above the Super Saiyan God Goku in canon. Beerus is hugely impressed at Vegito's power, however, Vegito doesn't have a candle to himself of course, but he's still indeed impressive. However, Beerus still knows that even with this immense power, Vegeta is no Super Saiyan God. Beerus ends the fight, and he tells Vegito that his power was quite remarkable, however not even close to his own. Vegito, even though being cocky, isn't stupid, and he could tell that Beerus was holding back in the fight. Beerus asks Vegito if he would like to train on his world, and Vegito would agree to this instantly. He tells Vegito that he will come back in a couple of months to retrieve Vegito, and he then puts his hand on Whis' shoulder as they go back to his planet. Vegito is ecstatic about the prospect of training on Beerus' world, and he then tells Gohan that they need to train intensely for the next couple of months before he will go. Bulma is angry, but doesn't seem to care as much, as Chi-Chi, who is mad that Vegito is just going to go train on another world for who knows how long, when he has responsibilities on Earth. Vegito is a bit flustered by this, so he quickly grabs onto Gohan and he instant transmissions up to Kami's lookout. They appear next to Dende, and Vegito asks if the adjustments to the time chamber are done. Dende nods and says that they can now spend as much time in the time chamber as they want, and then Gohan looks to Vegito knowing what this means. Gohan says that he can't go in for more than one day, because he still has a job and he has to look after Videl, which he would know that is pregnant because she would tell him while Vegito is fighting Beerus. And Vegito says that it is fine, 1 year is all he will need for now. He didn't want to be in there for too long anyways, since he didn't want to age out of his prime sooner. So now Vegito will train intensely while he waits for Beerus and Whis to return. Back on Beerus World, Whis is showing Beerus this, and he asks Beerus if he is nervous at all. Whis says that if they are already this powerful without God Ki, imagine how strong they could be with mastery over God Ki. Beerus thinks about this for a moment, and he gets a bit scared, but then he asserts his fake confidence to Whis, saying that no mortal could ever surpass him, even with God Ki. Whis humours Beerus, saying, of course they couldn't. And Beerus and Whis begin to enjoy some of the food Whis had brought from Earth. On Frieza's ship, Sorbet is explaining to Frieza about how Goku and Vegeta seem to have disappeared when Buu was awoken. However, a new Saiyan appeared and treated Buu like he was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Frieza chuckles as he thinks Goku and Vegeta died to Majin Buu. However, he is worried about this new Saiyan. Sorbet says that this new Saiyan even battled against Lord Beerus himself, and a drop of sweat rolls down Frieza's face. Frieza asks if Goku's son is still alive, and Sorbet says he is. Frieza regains his composure, and he says if he can't get his revenge on Goku, he will get it on his son. So, he tells his men to head back to Earth, but they advise he doesn't. Frieza asks if they question his power, and they say of course not, but Goku's son was training with that new Saiyan a lot, and could be an issue for Lord Frieza. With the threat of both Goku's son and a new Saiyan, Frieza decides to train for 4 months, and he does end up achieving his golden form just like in canon, and his form does still have the stamina issue, which Frieza is unaware of. Frieza's army make their way to Earth, and Gohan senses this instantly. Gohan can tell Frieza is stronger, but he isn't sure what form he is in. Piccolo suggests trying to contact Vegito on Beerus World, but Gohan says that they won't need him. Gohan is still cocky in this story, since he didn't get that training from Piccolo to not be. He has also been training with Vegito, who is even more cocky than himself, so that would rub off on him as well. Frieza arrived with his army, and this time Goten and Trunks are allowed to fight the soldiers as well. The soldiers are defeated with no difficulty, and even the elite soldiers are taken out by Goten and Trunks with ease. Frieza tries to shoot a death beam at Piccolo, but Gohan quickly puts his hand in the way, completely blocking the beam and not taking any damage from it. Frieza would smirk, transforming into his final form, and he would begin to battle Gohan. In base, Gohan seems to be evenly matched with Frieza, maybe even slightly stronger. This leads Frieza to transform into his golden form, and he thinks Gohan will be shaking in fear, but Gohan just lets out a smirk. Frieza is confused, and then Gohan transformed into his ultimate form. Frieza is even more confused as there is no visible difference to Gohan, and he just begins to laugh. Gohan can't even become a Super Saiyan. Gohan then gut punches Frieza when he isn't expecting it, and he slams him into the ground. Frieza realizes his mistake, and he begins to charge at Gohan, and they begin to clash fists. Frieza begins to fire death beams at Gohan, but Gohan smacks them all away with ease. Gohan then fires a Masenko at Frieza, which Frieza narrowly dodges, and he then uppercuts Gohan. Frieza is beginning to get exhausted, and it seems his golden form is getting weaker. Gohan then decides to let Frieza in on a little secret. He isn't even at full power. Frieza is shocked as Gohan begins to power up even further, making his power far outclass Frieza's. This scares the tyrant so much that he goes to his last resort and he blows up Earth. Vegito was sensing the entire fight on Beerus World, and he tells Whis they need to get there now. Vegito and Whis arrive, and they see what remains of Earth. Whis says he can reverse time, but Vegito will need to act fast to stop Frieza from blowing up the Earth. Vegito agrees, and Whis reverses time to when Frieza is about to attempt to blow up the planet. Vegito comes behind Goten and Trunks, and he tells them to quickly fuse into Gotenks and quickly put a galactic donut around Frieza. There's no time to ask questions. They do so, and when Frieza is about to blow up the planet, he is caught by a galactic donut thrown by Gotenks, and he is sent out of his golden form. Gohan looks and he sees Vegito standing next to Gotenks. Vegito says that Frieza would have blown up the Earth if he didn't intervene. Gohan let his arrogance blind him to the scummy tactics of Frieza, and that would have cost everyone their lives. Gohan takes this to heart, and he looks at Piccolo, and he can tell that Piccolo agrees with Vegito. Vegito picks up Frieza by the head, and he stares into his eyes. He then powers up into Super Saiyan Blue just to assert his dominance over Frieza, and he then stabs Frieza through the chest with a spirit sword. The light begins to fade from Frieza's eyes, and then Vegito throws Frieza into the sky and finishes him off with a final Kamehameha, leaving no remains of Frieza. Vegito walks over to Gohan, and he then tells him that he is strong, but he needs to remember that his enemies aren't just going to play fair. Gohan should know that by now. Frieza blowing up Namek, Cell self-destructing, Boo absorbing people. Gohan apologizes, and he says that he will train with Piccolo to solve that issue. He realizes that even though Vegito is cocky, he isn't a dumb fighter. He knows what the people he is up against are going to do, and he uses that against them. However, Gohan knows he does not have that skill, and he won't be able to learn it, so the best thing to do is to get rid of his cocky side of himself. If something like that happened again, it will cost him his family and the entire Earth. Vegito tells Gohan to keep up his training, and he then teleports to Bulma and Chi-Chi and talks to them. Vegito then teleports back to Whis, and they head back to Beerus World. Deep in space, Champa and Vados are flying around, searching for the Super Dragon Balls. Vados says that they should take a break, and Champa agrees. Champa looks in the direction where there seems to be nothing, but the camera zooms in all the way to the other side of the galaxy, and we see Beerus World. Champa decides it is about time he paid his brother a visit. Champa was still snooping around Universe 7 looking for the Super Dragon Balls, and he decided to pay Beerus a visit. Everything that happens there is practically the same, apart from obviously there is only Vegito there instead of Goku and Vegeta. Vegito would pose the idea of a tournament between the universes for the Super Dragon Balls, and both Champa and Beerus would agree. We now skip to the tournament, and here is the new team for Universe 7. Vegito, Gohan, Piccolo, Trunks, and Goten. Obviously, as we saw by the last part, Gohan is far stronger than he was in canon, and since Piccolo has been training Goten and Trunks, they are a lot more disciplined and powerful. Piccolo's up first, and he realizes that he can't damage Botamo. However, he does realize that when he rapidly punches Botamo, it begins to lift him off of the ground, and this gives Piccolo an idea. Piccolo rapidly punches Botamo until he is lifted off the ground, and then Piccolo keeps extending his arms while punching Botamo, until Botamo is outside of the ring, and then Piccolo stops punching Botamo. This makes him the winner, and we move on to the second match. It is now Piccolo vs Frost, and the round begins with Piccolo having a huge advantage. This however leads Frost to transforming into his final form, and that is where things seem to be more even. It still looks like Piccolo has the advantage, and he extends his arms, wrapping around Frost. Frost, however, uses this to his advantage, and he then stabs Piccolo's arm with a poison needle. Piccolo then begins to feel dizzy, and loosens his grip on Frost. Frost then squeezes his way out of Piccolo's loosened arms, and then he uppercuts Piccolo, sending him into the sky. Then Frost jumps up, and slaps Piccolo out of the ring with his tail. Gohan is up next against Frost, and let's just say this won't end well for Frost. The old Gohan would toy with Frost, giving him the opportunity to stab him with the poison needle, but Gohan isn't that same person anymore. He is trained under Piccolo to get rid of that arrogance. Gohan sees this as the perfect time to show this, as he was too arrogant against Frieza. Now he will not be arrogant against Frost, who is Frieza's Universe 6 counterpart. Gohan transforms into Ultimate, and instantly begins to beat on Frost. Gohan then notices that Frost always tries to jab him with his wrist. Gohan would easily dodge all of these attacks, but Gohan is suspicious, and he decides to test something out, so he grabs Frost's arm and raises it into the sky. Everyone then sees as a purple ooze drips out of his wrist. Everyone sees that Frost used poison, and they even see a little needle poking out as well. And after looking at Piccolo's arm, they find a little hole in it. Frost is disqualified, and Piccolo is allowed back in the tournament. Gohan would face off against Vegeta, and knowing Gohan, he would be able to come up with an insult that would make Vegeta run out of the ring and cry, which would then lead to Gohan vs Cabba. But Vegito would ask to fight Cabba instead of Gohan. Gohan would accept this, and Cabba would try to beat Vegito in his base form, but he wouldn't even be able to land a blow. Vegito would ask Cabba why he didn't transform into a Super Saiyan, but Cabba just looked confused. He doesn't know what that is. Nobody in the tournament has used Super Saiyan yet. And then Vegito transformed into a Super Saiyan to show Cabba what it is. Cabba looks amazed. Vegito goes back into his base form, and he decides he will try push Cabba into Super Saiyan. He isn't as harsh as Vegeta, but still rough enough as to where Cabba would still become a Super Saiyan. Vegito would still effortlessly overpower Cabba, however, and he would show off Super Saiyan Blue for a split second, and he would then go back into his base form and eliminate Cabba with a single blow. It is now time for the main event. Vegito vs Hit. Vegito would start in base form, and surprisingly not do bad against Hit. He would also figure out how to counter Hit's time skip, which makes it a lot harder for Hit. It would begin increasing his time skip, which does impress Vegito, so he decides he will give Hit the honour of facing him in his blue form. Obviously, it is extreme overkill, but he decides Hit is a respectable warrior, and deserves to face him at his strongest. Hit would keep increasing his time skip, but Vegito is just so fast that it doesn't even matter. Vegito would block every one of Hit's attacks, and he then catches Hit's last punch, and he then gut punches Hit, blowing the wind out of him. Vegito then lifts Hit into the sky, and he tells Hit that he's a strong fighter, and that they should fight again once Hit gets stronger. Vegito then throws Hit up in the sky, and then Vegito instant transmissions beside him, and he kicks him out of the ring. Universe 7 has won the tournament, meaning they will get the wish from the Super Dragon Balls. Zeno would still show up, and I think him and Vegito would become friends, like how Zeno and Goku became friends in canon. Vegito would tell Beerus that he wants to use the Super Dragon Balls to finally defuse, as even the Namekian Dragon Balls weren't able to do it. Beerus says that he wanted to wish for a replica of Earth to exist in Universe 7, and then Vegito thinks about it. For once, it seems Beerus is showing compassion. Maybe they should give Universe 6 Earth of their own. Vegito then tells Beerus that it is fine, but the next time they get a wish from the Super Dragon Balls, he does get to wish to defuse. Beerus agrees, and he then wishes for Universe 6 to have their own Earth. In the future, we see a city that is completely destroyed. A boy with blue hair is seemingly running away from someone. We see who that someone is, and they look like Vegito. Future Trunks was running away from someone who looks exactly like Vegito. You probably know that this is really Zamasu, and he uses Super Dragon Balls to take Vegito's body. Zamasu would obviously take Vegito's body, since, for one, he was the only person in the tournament to use God Ki, and Vegito was also just so much stronger than everyone else there. This coupled with the fact of Trunks still time travelling in this timeline, Zamasu still begins his Zero Mortal plan. Trunks is badly damaged and trying to get to the time machine. Don't forget that Trunks couldn't even beat a base form Goku Black, so facing a base form Vegito Black just wouldn't end well for Trunks. The only reason Trunks is still alive is because Vegito Black has just been toying with him. Trunks would narrowly escape to the past and land outside of Capsule Corp. Bulma would hear a crashing noise outside and she would run out to see Trunks in the time machine. Bulma would contact Whis and ask to speak to Vegito. Bulma would tell Vegito that future Trunks just showed up and is badly damaged, and Vegito says that he needs someone there to power up so he can instant transmission to them. Bulma calls for present Trunks and tells him to power up, and so he does, transforming into a Super Saiyan, and then Vegito instant transmissions to Earth alongside Beerus and Whis. Vegito then instant transmissions to Koron's tower and gets some Senzu beans, and then instant transmissions back to the others, and he gives future Trunks a Senzu bean. Future Trunks wakes up and he sees Vegito. He believes it is Black even more than in canon because Trunks had never seen Vegito before. Trunks would attack Vegito, but Vegito would easily catch all of Trunks' attacks, and then Bulma would slap Trunks, knocking some sense into him. Trunks would ask who Vegito is, and then Bulma would explain that they are a fusion of Vegeta and Goku. This would make Trunks even more angry at Vegito Black, because this now means that his own father was a part of his diabolical plans. Gohan would arrive on the scene after sensing Vegito back on Earth, and even though he isn't certain, he thinks he can sense future Trunks as well. Trunks would be amazed at how strong Gohan is, even in his base form, but it seems Vegito far outclasses Gohan. Vegito Black would then appear, and he would see Trunks standing next to Vegito. Black would smirk as Vegito looks at him with pure rage. Vegito would fly up to face Black, and their battle would commence. Unfortunately for Black, however, he made one fatal mistake. He hurt Trunks, Vegeta's son. Vegito's son. Black would be shocked as Vegito transforms into a Super Saiyan Blue and he begins to pummel Black. Black would even begin to taunt Vegito, saying how he killed both Bulma and Chi-Chi using his body. This only enrages Vegito further, and he would then stab Black with his spirit sword. Vegito would then cut Black in half with it, and Black would fall to the ground, dead. Vegito would call Black a cheap knockoff, and he would then throw the remains of Black into the sky, shooting a Big Bang attack at them, leaving no trace of Black. Trunks would be amazed at Vegito's power, and he would thank him for the help. Vegito would say it is fine, but Trunks needs to learn how to fight his own battles. Trunks apologizes, but then Gohan gets an idea. Gohan asks Vegito if he can take them to the Supreme Kai's world. And then Vegito understands what Gohan is getting at. Vegito doesn't want that form himself, as he sees it as taking a shortcut and not truly earning the power, but he can see why Trunks could need it. Vegito takes Gohan and Trunks to the Supreme Kai's world, and then Vegito would leave them there, and he would head back to Earth. Gohan would ask the Elder Kai if Trunks can have his potential unlocked, and since the Elder Kai has nothing better to do, he says why not, and he begins to unlock Trunks' potential. Back on Earth, Vegito is talking to Beerus and Whis about who they think Black really is, but then another hole in space-time appears. Zamasu exits the rift in space-time, and he sees Vegito. Zamasu came to see where Vegito Black was, because he shouldn't have taken that long, but now Zamasu realises what happened. Beerus flies up to Zamasu, and he stares at him in the eyes. Beerus then outstretches his hand, and says, "Hakai," and Zamasu is seemingly erased. However, a second later, Zamasu is back, and completely healed. Zamasu gloats, as not even the gods of destruction can defeat his divine immortality. Beerus looks at Whis, and Whis nods. Whis hands Beerus a sword that resembles a Z-sword, and then Beerus looks at Zamasu once again. Zamasu laughs as he believes that Beerus thinks a sword could kill him when a Hakai couldn't. Beerus slashes Zamasu with the blade, and then Zamasu feels strange. Zamasu then begins to scream as he gets sucked into the sword and is now contained within it. In case you are wondering what the hell just happened, Beerus used that sealing technique that Whis mentioned, only known by the gods to seal Zamasu. The same sealing technique used to trap the Elder Kai in the Z-sword. However, unlike the Elder Kai, Beerus will keep the sword on his world, making sure Zamasu is never unsealed. A day or two passes, and Trunks and Gohan are brought back to Earth by Kibito Kai. Trunks then goes to the time machine, which Bulma made some slight modifications to, and he says goodbye to everyone. He then gets into the time machine, and he leaves, thanking them all for their help. Shortly after this, Vegito goes along with Beerus and Whis to Universe 10, where they tell Gowasu everything. And since Beerus couldn't Hakai the immortal Zamasu, he decides to Hakai the present one to make sure that threat to his universe is eliminated. So, the future timeline doesn't get erased by Zeno. However, this means that future Zeno doesn't come to the present timeline. This will mean our Zeno will get bored faster because he'll have no one to play with. And that means the Tournament of Power will begin earlier. Vegito and Whis would be training, and then Whis would get a call on his staff. He would answer it, and it would be Zeno asking to speak to Vegito in person. Whis would be shocked, but then comply, and Whis tells Zeno that Vegito will be in his palace shortly. Whis would tell Vegito to bring the Supreme Kai, and Vegito would do so, disappearing and then reappearing with Kibito Kai. Kibito Kai would then Kai them all to Zeno's palace, and they would be greeted by the Grand Priest. The Grand Priest would take them into the palace, and they would see Zeno there, patiently waiting. Zeno would welcome Vegito, and Vegito would ask what's up. Zeno would say he has been really bored lately, and he would want to do that tournament between all of the universes now. Vegito gets excited and says that sounds great. Zeno also gets excited and says that all the universes that don't win will get erased. Vegito then anxiously says that they shouldn't get erased, but Zeno says he'll think about it. Vegito, Whis, and Kibito Kai would then Kai back to Beerus World, and Kibito Kai and Vegito look nervous. Vegito tells Whis to inform Beerus on what is going on, and he then tells Kibito Kai to take him back to Earth. On Earth, Gohan is training with Piccolo, Goten and Trunks, when Vegito and Kibito Kai appear. Vegito would tell them all about the tournament, and that if they lose, their universe will get erased, and they all look shocked. Vegito says that all of them will be on the team, but Vegito needs to get some more people. So, Vegito then teleports away, and he gathers the rest of the team. We now skip to the exhibition match, with Vegito, Gohan and Piccolo, with all three of them beating their opponents with ease. Toppo would try and face Vegito, but Vegito is just so much more powerful than Toppo at this point, so it doesn't really go well. Vegito in base form seems to be pretty evenly matched with Toppo, but then he transforms into a Super Saiyan and begins to pummel him. The Grand Priest has to stop the fight because Toppo's just too injured to fight anymore. And then everyone goes back to their universes to prepare for the tournament. We now go to the Tournament of Power, and the team is the same as in canon, apart from Vegito would replace Vegeta, Trunks would replace Goku, Goten would replace Frieza, and future Trunks would replace Master Roshi. That's right, future Trunks is in the tournament. Since his universe didn't get erased in the last part, Vegito just went to the future timeline with Kibito Kai using a time ring, and got future Trunks to join them. They of course had to ask Zeno if it was okay, and Zeno said that having someone from the future sounds cool, so he allowed it. We're going to the tournament, and Universe 9 would try to take on Vegito, but he would take them all out by himself and not even needing to transform. Goten and Trunks would be facing Caulifla, and KO would get enraged seeing Caulifla losing, and would go berserk. Vegito would sense this, and instant transmission to Goten and Trunks. and when Vegito is about to fight Kale, Jiren shows up and deals with the situation. Vegito and Jiren both then glare at each other, and Jiren returns to meditating. Gohan would begin to face Toppo, and he gets pushed into using Ultimate. Gohan has the advantage and begins to beat down Toppo. However, this leads to Toppo being pushed into using his God of Destruction mode, and Gohan is caught off guard at first, but he then begins to adjust his strategy and gets an advantage over Toppo once again. However, their fight is a lot more even now, and Gohan can't finish the fight as fast as he had hoped. Vegito now decides to face Jiren, and Jiren reluctantly complies. Vegito rushes at Jiren in his base form, and even though it doesn't do much, it still does better than Super Saiyan Blue Goku in canon. Vegito would then transform straight to Super Saiyan God, and then the fight would become more interesting. At the same time, future Trunks would be facing Caulifla, and with them both in Super Saiyan 2, future Trunks does begin with the advantage, but he realises that Caulifla is adapting to his fighting style and beginning to gain the upper hand. Trunks would then transform into Ultimate, and this makes Kale need to step in and help Caulifla in her controlled Berserk form. However, Trunks would still have the advantage, and when he's about to hit them out of the ring, they would fuse into Kefla. And Trunks would be evenly matched with Kefla in base form, but when she turned into a Super Saiyan, Trunks is having trouble trying to keep up. Toppo is shooting a barrage of balls of Hakai at Gohan, but Gohan dodges them all. Toppo then begins to charge up a giant ball of Hakai energy, and Gohan powers up a Kamehameha in response. Toppo would fire the ball of Hakai as Gohan fires his Kamehameha, and the two attacks clash. It seems pretty even at first, but Toppo's ball of Hakai begins to overpower Gohan's Kamehameha. Gohan begins to think of Videl and Pan as the ball of Hakai consumes more and more of his Kamehameha. Gohan can't lose. He needs to win for Pan, and he needs to win for Videl. Gohan's power begins to surge as he lets out a roar, and his Kamehameha grows in size and in power, and it goes straight through Toppo's ball of Hakai, and it hits Toppo, sending him flying out of the ring. Gohan then turns, and he sees future Trunks and Android 17 trying to face Kefla. Goten and Trunks even fuse into Gotenks and transform into Super Saiyan 3 to help them. Gohan goes to help them out, and we cut back to Vegito and Jiren's battle. Vegito is in Super Saiyan Blue, and he is actually overpowering Jiren. Jiren tries to attack Vegito, but Vegito blocks most of the punches, and he then gut punches Jiren. Jiren begins to get angry at Vegito, and he is pushed into breaking his limits. Even Vegito's cocky demeanour can't remain after sensing Jiren's newfound power, but Vegito tries to face him anyway. Back to the fight against Kefla. Gotenks and Android 17 were knocked out of the ring, and all that's left is Gohan and future Trunks. Gohan has got Kefla into a full Nelson, and he tells Trunks to fire at them, but Trunks can't do it. It will knock Gohan out as well. Gohan shouts for him to do it, and Trunks reluctantly finally shoots a Gallic gun at them both, knocking both Kefla and Gohan out of the ring. Vegito is getting beaten down by Jiren, and eventually gets sent back into his base form, laying on the ground defeated. Jiren is about to throw Vegito out of the ring, but then he gets hit in the back of the head by a ki blast from Trunks. Vegito watches as Trunks tries to take on Jiren, but then Jiren begins to mercilessly beat him down. Jiren then breaks Trunks' leg and lifts him up by his hair. Jiren then stares Trunks in his eyes as he shoots a ki blast at his chest, sending him flying out of the ring. Trunks gives Vegito the last bit of his energy as he falls out of the ring, and now it is just Vegito vs Jiren. Vegito stands up and he looks down at the ground. Jiren puts all of his power into his fist as he tries to punch Vegito, but Vegito catches the punch. Vegito then looks up and he lets out a roar transforming into Super Saiyan Blue Evolution. How dare Jiren hurt his son? He's going to pay for that. Vegito then punches Jiren in the face, and he gets sent flying into debris. Vegito and Jiren rush at each other, every one of their punches colliding. Vegito then punches Jiren in the face, but Jiren punches Vegito in the face at the same time. Vegito tries to kick Jiren, but Jiren blocks it. But Vegito wanted this all along. And then Vegito appears behind Jiren and lands a punch on his spine. Vegito then grabs Jiren by his legs and he swings him around. He then throws Jiren into a wall of debris and begins to power up a final Kamehameha. Jiren powers up a beam attack of his own and fires it at Vegito, but then Vegito rides Jiren's beam attack with the final Kamehameha in his hands, and he then fires the final Kamehameha at Jiren point blank, and it sends Jiren out of the ring. Vegito returns to his base form, completely exhausted, and he is crowned the victor of the tournament. The Grand Priest asks Vegito what he wants to wish for with the Super Dragon Balls, and he is about to wish to be defused, but then he sees Zeno looking at him intently, as if there is something he expects Vegito to wish for. Something he wants Vegito to wish for. Vegito then smirks, and to the shock of everyone, he wishes to bring back the other universes. The Broly movie never takes place because Frieza wasn't revived, and we would now move to the Moro arc. Vegito would confront Moro on Namek, and because of how powerful he is, he would turn into Super Saiyan Blue and beat Moro there and then, killing him off. Around a year later, all the Super Dragon Balls were finally gathered, and everyone arrives to see this wish happen. Beerus asks Vegito if he is sure he wants to defuse. He may lose all of the power he has gained as Vegito. Vegito smiles, and he tells Beerus that even if he does lose all of the forms and everything he gained as Vegito, Gohan will be able to handle any threat until Goku and Vegeta separately reach this power by themselves. Whis gets the go-ahead, and then wishes for Vegito to be defused, and everybody watches as Vegito splits apart into Goku and Vegeta. Chi-Chi and Goten rush to Goku, as Bulma and Trunks rush to Vegeta. Goku and Vegeta look at each other, and then they smirk. Being Vegito for so long has really gave Goku and Vegeta respect for each other. Goku and Vegeta decide that they need to spend a bit of time with their families. Maybe after a while they'll go and train on Beerus World, but for now they just want to enjoy being back to normal and spending time with their families. We're going to end this series here, so if you ended up liking this series, then make sure you like the video, comment what series you want to see next, and please do subscribe. Trying to do non-Goku revolved what ifs has stunted the growth on my channel by quite a bit, so if you want to help me out, then please do subscribe. With all of that out of the way, I can't wait to see all of you guys in tomorrow's video. Goodbye guys.